you seem to be re-teaming with Russell Brand. What is this about? I mean, Arthur.
Yes, we just did Arthur. We shot that in New York this summer. God, it was hot. Unbelievably hot. Yes, that was...
Tell me about that remake. I mean, what's the new concept there?
Well, obviously, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the original Arthur, but, obviously it was John Gilbert and Dudley Moore, and, it's a very beloved film. So that's a dangerous thing to do, to remake a film that's very beloved. On the other hand, there's probably like 3 generations who've never seen Arthur and have never heard of Dudley Moore or indeed John Gilbert. So, I guess those are the people we're hoping to get into the cinema.
The premise was that he's basically drunk the entire time.
Yes, and obviously now there's a whole different feeling about alcoholism, and so that sort of had to be addressed in a different way. And the John Gilbert character, which originally was his butler, has now become his nanny. Yeah, so.
Looking forward. Now there's a couple of other things. There's Brighton Rock.
Yes, that's a remake, or again another remake actually, of a film that's probably not known so much in America, but it was a pretty beloved film in Britain, based on a book by Graham Greene called Brighton Rock. That's a rather, it's a good, good literature. It was a black and white film. It's made, I think, in the 50s, maybe even in the 40s. Sir Richard Attenborough plays the young man in it, so that's how long ago it was made. Anyway, we did a remake of it, but it's still a kind of a period piece. It takes place in the 60s.
And there's, have I got everything? Or is there something else?
Well, there's The Dead, yes.
Yes, The Dead. The Dead is really interesting because it's about the Mossad.
About Mossad.
And you get to play this extraordinary character.
I play another, not CIA, but a Mossad
another gun-wielding.
Yeah, retired Mossad agent. Yeah.
Well,
it's a great thriller. It's a really good film.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to end up releasing it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's one of those movies that was at Miramax.
And got caught up in that.
Yeah. Now, does anyone out here have a question for Miss Mirren? Right here in the middle. I'm pointing at you. Yell it out.
It is truly striking how natural you were in the role of Prospero. And it didn't seem to be about gender bending at all. And I just wonder if there are any adjustments that you had to make in order to seem so natural in the role.
Did you all get that? Did she have to make any adjustments in order to seem natural in the role?
I mean, as a woman playing a role that was written for a man, well, the reason I had the idea of doing it in the first place was I watched it in the theatre. And as I was watching it, played by a very great British actor called Derek Jacobi, as I was watching it, I was thinking, God, a woman could play this role, and you wouldn't have to change a single word. You wouldn't have to change anything. There's no other play in the canon of Shakespeare that I can think of that this is true of. But in the Tempest, it is true. Another very interesting fact is that one of the most famous speeches in the film, the speech that I do in The Ring of Fire, ye elves of hills, woods, standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sands with printless foot to chase the ebbing Neptune, and then do fly him when ye come back. I can't remember the rest of it now, but it's a great speech. That was taken pretty well, word for word, talk about plagiarism, from a play, I think, by Ovid, about Medea being a woman sorceress. And Shakespeare, if you're interested, go back to the source material and check it out on your Googles tonight. And you'll see, it's unbelievable. It's virtually word for word. It's so close. So one of the most famous speeches in the play was actually written for a female character. But anyway, as I was watching it, I was thinking this this absolutely could be played by a woman. And so I thought at that time, well, if anyone asked me to do Shakespeare again, I'll say that's what I want to play. I want to play Prospero.
But did you and Julie have to sort of adjust the language?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. I say nothing. Little tiny bit of the backstory, because obviously, you know, he was the Duke of Milan, and we had to just change it to the Duchess, and we did a little thing where the Duke dies, he gives her control of the dukedom, and then her brother comes and ousts her in a sort of coup d'etat. But so little of the dialogue was changed.
A lot of scholars are of the opinion that the original Prospero was inspired by Dr. John Dee, the Queen's astrologer, a really interesting character. I just wondered if you had read or thought to even investigate his life a little in order to prepare for this, or whether that was not an issue at all.
Well, I have to say, I'm a total ignoramus, and I didn't know that fact. I'd never heard of that particular theory. No, I didn't research it. That's the short answer.
Are there any theater roles that you would like to play that you have never covered in your career? And would you ever consider playing King Lear as a woman?
You couldn't do Lear as a woman. You just couldn't, no. It wouldn't work. You know, think of that. He's so masculine, Lear. You know, with his entourage, his retinue of drunken soldiers. The reason he gets thrown out of his daughter's castle is because they're having too many rowdy, drunken nights. It would not be possible to play Lear as a woman.
Any other roles that you're hankering after?
The role that I kind of slightly had the hots for, which I actually did last year, was Phaedra, Racine's Phaedra, on stage. And that's a great play, and it was a role I kind of wanted to play because I'd always heard how brilliant, oh God, my brain's got it, not Eleanor Duse, Sarah Bernhardt was so, you know, brilliant as Phaedra, one heard. So I kind of wanted to out Sarah Bernhardt. I didn't succeed, but never mind. Another great play I did a couple of years ago, a part that I'd never heard of before, was Morning Becomes Electra. Christine Mannon in Morning Becomes Electra. Incredible role. I mean, just one of the great theatrical roles. That would make a good movie, I suspect. That would be an interesting film.
I agree.
Do you find it you prefer to play like more classic characters where you have to put your own interpretation on them, or do you prefer original characters for more original stories?
The question was, do I prefer to play classical roles where you can put your own interpretation on them, or modern roles where you could just, you know, invent whatever you want? It's great to do either. The reality is, I think whatever the role is, you put your own interpretation onto it. The classical work is classical because it has eternal truths buried within it. And that's why generation after generation, you can have, you know, a Hamlet every 5 years, or even 3 Hamlets every 5 years, which we do in England. And each time it speaks anew to the next set of young people growing up who are now 15, but they were 10, 5 years ago, and it didn't mean anything to them. Now it means, it just has its eternal truth in them. Likewise, obviously, with Ibsen, with Chekhov, with Arthur Miller. I mean, you have great playwrights here in America. And it's so interesting to see who will be the classical playwrights of the future, and to kind of guess which ones they will be. And it's hard to guess because, you know, you get blinded by your own culture and your own world, and sometimes you can't see the brilliance that's sitting right there, and you're looking at this flashy thing over here. You think it's the bee's knees, and this really brilliant thing you're not paying attention to. It's like, you know, the history of Van Gogh, really, isn't it? You know, Van Gogh was never recognized in his own lifetime.
Why has Shakespeare survived so effectively? Why does he keep being...
Because he speaks to the human condition. And in every play, whether the play is successful or not, within the play always is an incredible understanding of the eternal truths of the human condition. Not what it's like to be, you know, 22 in 2010. It's what it's like to be a human being, young, old, middle-aged, all the travails that we have, our fears and our hopes and our despair. And he deals with the whole thing. And, you know, some of the most beautiful lines. You know, we are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. And what an incredible description of the human condition is that we can all identify with, no matter what age we are. We can all identify with that. And that's just 2 lines. You know, there's endless amount of that stuff in Shakespeare.
Helen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.